What is up, Janksters? It's your boy Graham, also known as HamHawks42 on the internet, and this video is for you if you are curious, what the heck is Dominaria Remastered? Didn't we just do a Dominaria set? What are people talking about? Yes, Dominaria Remastered is a set that is going to be dropping next year, but actually by next year I mean next month by virtue of it being December as of this recording. It will be released on January 13th, 2023, and Dominaria Remastered is actually a supplementary product, so these cards will not be tournament legal, and it will include a ton of reprints. Now, these reprints are not just coming from the most recent Dominaria sets. We have Dominaria United. There was also a set simply called Dominaria in 2018, which you may remember. Those sets are two of 27 sets throughout Magic's history that are featuring the plane of Dominaria. You may think, holy cow, we've been there that many times, and yes, we have, because in the 90s and the early 2000s, there were a number of sets that occurred in Magic's primary world. You know, Alpha, Beta, Antiquities, which, you know, was the first instance of the first telling of the Brothers' War. All of those events took place on the plane of Dominaria. And not to mention, the whole Onslaught block in the early 2000s took place on Dominaria. And there were just a myriad of sets. And so it's been one of Magic's home bases for the entire 30-year run of Magic the Gathering. So there are 27 sets or to choose from, and as a result they have taken they've made about 450 some odd reprints from around all of these sets and injected them into a single product. And I think that's pretty darn cool. So this product is currently available for pre-order. You can buy it, as you can see. This is the official Magic website. You pre-order them on Amazon, or you can pick them up at your local game store when they become available, which is pretty darn cool. Also, get in touch with your local game store, see if they're doing drafts of this, because I have a feeling this is going to be freaking awesome. Because this set, when I say that it's jam-packed with reprints, I'm not kidding. There are some incredibly cool cards, and if you would indulge me, I do want to look through a couple of them, because there are some things that I noticed. We're going to make a quick detour. Right now we're looking at the official Magic site. Let's go ahead and scroll a little bit, but here are a couple of examples. You know, Force of Freaking Will is here. We also have Shivan Dragon, which is one of the most iconic cards in Magic, arguably. You know, these are some of the mythics that you can find. So Shivan Dragon, or sorry, this Shivan Dragon's a rare, thank goodness. At Mythic, that would be a bit extreme. To be honest, you could make an argument that Shivan Dragon should be an uncommon. It is very powerful and limited, but outside of that, it's basically unplayable. Like, it's just not a card that you see in Standard, when it was legal in Standard, or in any of the older formats. Like, by the way, fun fact, if you play on Magic Arena, Shivan Dragon has been on the client the entire time. It was printed in M19. It is a legal card in Explorer and Historic right now, and I'm very confident in saying you have probably never, ever seen it cast, because it's just not good enough compared to everything else going on right now. There's also Urza's Incubator, Sylvan Library, and freaking Vampiric Tutor. You know it, you love it. It's just, yeah. So as you can see, some incredibly powerful and iconic cards from throughout Magic's history. The reason that I give Shivan Dragon a little bit of a hard time, the truth of the matter is, Shivan Dragon was printed back in '93. It was the first, like, dragon. And so there were so many kids playing Magic the Gathering for the very first time, and Shivan Dragon was their big, awesome dragon they got to smack their opponents, you know, smack their buddy in the face with. Like, so for that, Shivan Dragon is very special to the history of the game. It just, with power creep, it has just, it became obsolete years ago, to be honest. Like, many years ago, actually. But it's still a cool card, and it deserves a slot in this set, absolutely. And not to mention, I believe that is a Shivan Dragon featured on the art. But yes, so that is the quick, you know, the quick overview. Supplemental product containing more than 400 reprints that will be available on January 13th, 2023. None of these cards are standard legal. This set will actually not impact their legality at all, because already all of these cards are legal in Commander, Legacy, and Vintage. So, cool. Reprints. Woo! I do like me a good reprint set. But if you would indulge me, I actually have, I'd like to take a look through some of the cards that are actually included in the set. So we're gonna take a quick jaunt. We were looking at the Magic, official Magic website. Now we're looking at Scryfall. Amazing site, by the way. Definitely check them out if you haven't already. They are phenomenal card search engine. They're not, like, affiliated with this channel in any way. I just use them all the time and just will shout them like to the friggin' rooftops. But so as you can see, actually one of my favorite cards of all time, Battle Screech, is here as an uncommon. That makes me very happy. But you know, if you just, we're just gonna do kind of a quick look. There's a lot of cards that, like, as you look through, if you've been playing Magic for any number of years, some of these are gonna catch your eye because a lot of the time they've even used classic art. You know, Lyra Dawnbringer, like we know Lyra. She was from that Dominaria set from 2018. Very powerful. Freaking pacifism. Now, maybe it would have been cool. Like, this artwork is good on pacifism, don't get me wrong. Like, a person laying down their weapons and walking away, even into the snow in, like, the freaking underwear, practically. Like, all right, like, that's commitment to being a pacifist. I respect that. I personally would have liked to see, there's artwork with an orc whose name is, I cannot believe, is it Grolnak, Grok, something like that. Anyway, that one is like classic. So that's the one I kind of would have liked to see here, but it's fine. There's also the giant knitting. There's all kinds of fun artwork for pacifism over the years. In any event, but classic piece of removal. It's been around forever. Awesome, great. Put it in the set. Makes good sense. There's also a card that I think is absolutely fascinating, and that is Savannah Lions. The fact that Savannah Lions is in this set, I think, is a big deal, not just because it is printed in the set, but much like Shivan Dragon, Savannah Lions was a bomb diggity all-star back in the day. This thing was the strongest card in the world. It's a little bit hard to see with this resolution, but the thing that makes Savannah Lions so special is it's a 2/1 for 1. That's it. That's all it is. It's a 1 mana 2/1. You get 2 power on board on turn 1 before your opponent can react at all. It was incredibly powerful and could take over the game right away. This is kind of like before there was Ragavan, there was Savannah Lions. This thing was fantastic. But you'll notice it's been downshifted to common. That's how powerful cards have gotten these days. And to be honest, we have 2/1s for 1. Like, we have Hotshot Mechanic. We have Recruitment Officer. These are 2/1s for 1 that are, like, decent uncommons. You know, like, they're good, but they're not amazing. They're not game-breaking. They don't take over the game the way Savannah Lions did. Back in the day, man, if you were playing in the 90s or in the early 2000s, if your opponent hit a Savannah Lions on turn 1, you better hope you have a terror in your hand on turn 2, but even then, it's still going to smack you once, probably, before you get a chance to respond to it, if not twice. It was incredible. I call that terror because we're going to be talking about that in a little bit, too. But Savannah Lions being downshifted to common is especially noteworthy because it used to be a rare. It was originally printed in alpha at rare, and you can even see as recent as 8th edition or 9th edition, it was included and printed as a rare. Now, granted, to be fair, 8th edition, 9th edition, that was 2003, 2004, so I'm not happy about the fact that that was 20 years ago, but that is what it is. It certainly doesn't belong at rare anymore, but the fact that Savannah Lions has fallen all the way to common, I find fascinating. So that's, I mean, it's fair. And to be honest, I'm glad it's here. I'm glad of all the common white weenies they could possibly put in the set, I'm glad they gave that spot to Savannah Lions, you know, our old friend. So, and that's what the set ought to be about. It ought to be nostalgic, and they're doing that. So cool. But at the end of the day, also, like, a good cheap white 1-drop for draft purposes at common, like, that's a thing that drafters need. So great. Like, Savannah Lions at common, fantastic. So what else do we got? We got things like Serra Avatar, Serra Angel, just absolutely very, very powerful, very strong cards in their own right that do fun, splashy things that we all know and love. Serra Angel was up there with Shivan Dragon as like one of the big OG beat sticks back in the day, so awesome. That's in the mix. We got freaking Spirit Link. That's the other thing too. Some of these reprints are very, very weird in what they do. Some of them are just classic, like also Source to Plowshares, no big deal. That being in the set, mwah, love it. That card's amazing. Some of them are very weird, like Spirit Link, for example. Whenever enchanted creature deals damage, you gain that much life. You will notice that is even the most recent, here, let me just pull that up real quick. That is the most recent Oracle text. This does not say target creature gains lifelink. The reason that is relevant, if a creature has lifelink and you put a Spirit Link on it, you gain double life. Because you gain the lifelink and you gain the Spirit Link life. That's pretty cool. So put that on a very big creature or a creature with like double strike or something, things can, like, your life total can get out of hand. Now it's an aura. There is the 2-for-1 problem. Be careful with that. I'm not saying that like this is incredibly busted tech, but some of these older cards that are included in Dominaria Remastered open themselves up to weird interactions like that. You know, so keep that in mind. Yeah. Also, Arcanus the Omnipotent. If you haven't had a chance to actually rock with Arcanus, you're missing out. That card's great. Tap, draw 3 cards, Ancestral Recall on tap ability. Let's freaking go. Love it. Wrath of God, also, just when you need a Wrath, you need a Wrath. I mean, the idea, board wipes are called Wrath because of that card. Like, again, super iconic, needs to be in the set. Let's see what else we got. OG Counterspell, Factor Fiction, frickin' Force of Will, as previously mentioned. Horseshoe Crab. By the way, if you have never played with Horseshoe Crab, it's very fun. Yeah, if you put like any kind of aura or equipment, like Paradise Mantle is a great example. Paradise Mantle says, equipped creature gets tap, add 1 mana of any color. You can actually just twiddle Horseshoe Crab endlessly, like tap, make a blue, then pay the blue to untap, then tap, make the blue, just Crab Rave. Classic joke. You can literally hold priority for the remainder of the game and stall everybody out. If you do that in a sanctioned tournament, by the way, they will call you for slow playing and you will get kicked out. Be aware of that. Well, at least get a warning. Judges won't take kindly to you doing that, but you can, just say it. In any event, Mystic Remora, Man of War, these are all just absolute classics that I love seeing here. Urza, Lord High Artificer, Time Stretch. To be honest, the thing that blows my mind the most, though, is not in some of the, like, obviously, yeah, Time Stretch, Urza, they're fantastic, very powerful cards. But the things that I love, you know, I mentioned Battle Scrage at the top. We also have cards like Wormfang Drake. This is a 3/4 flyer for 3. When it enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless you exile a creature you control other than Wormfang Drake. When the Drake leaves the battlefield, return the exiled creature to the battlefield under its owner's control. But you get a 3/4 flyer for 3, but you need to lose something in the process. But if you have a creature like, I mean, I wasn't doing this back in the day because the card didn't exist yet, but if you had a creature like a Spirited Companion, I guess, or a Man of War, or something that had a cool enter the battlefield trigger, you drop it, you trigger the battlefield trigger, you draw your card, you bounce your opponent's thing, you do whatever you were doing, and then you play the Wormfang Drake. You basically upgrade that creature into a really, really big thing, and then if your opponent kills the Wormfang Drake or wipes the board, then all of a sudden you get the other thing back and you get another go around of the ETB trigger. Like, that was the kind of thing that I did as a kid and felt super clever. And Wormfang Drake had that exact same artwork when it was printed back in, I want to say, Judgment? No, I think it was, might have been Torment. Anyway, but in any event, that's the kind of thing that I loved doing back in the day. And seeing Wormfang Drake here brings back those memories. So, in that regard, this set is a slam dunk. They did the thing. Another couple ones I want to talk about, Entomb. I couldn't help but notice they did not reprint, at least it hasn't been spoiled at this time, and I think the whole set's been reprinted as of this video. They didn't reprint Dark Ritual. So the Dark Ritual Entomb into Animate Dead combo that can get you like a turn 1 Gristlebrand, that's not a thing in this set. Like, you can't do that in Limited. But Entomb is incredibly powerful. For one, at instant speed, search your library for a card, put that card in your graveyard, then shuffle. There's a lot you can do with that. Where Reanimator strategies are strong, Entomb is just an A+ S tier card. The other one that I want to talk about, I mentioned Terror earlier. Terror was the go-to point-and-click removal back in the day, and it's here now. When I say back in the day, I mean back in the day. This was old school alpha. The beginning of the game, Terror was the removal. 1 to black, instant, destroy target. Destroy target creature without possibility of regeneration. Does not affect black creatures and artifact creatures. Destroy target non-artifact, non-black creature. It can't be regenerated. And the idea being you are literally scaring something to death. Now, you can't scare artifacts because theoretically they're robots. And you can't scare black creatures because presumably they're the monsters that are scary. So that kind of stuff doesn't really work with them. But Terror is coming back, and wait, actually, the art, now that I'm looking at it, it shows someone literally leaping out of their skin twice, it seems, at different layers, which is kind of weird. Makes a little Ouroboros of, like, body parts. Very, very odd. But in any event, the idea of being so scared that it literally kills you is kind of a fun idea, and it's just classic removal. You don't see it that much anymore because it's been outclassed. I mean, Go for the Throat is just strictly better, and then you could argue that Infernal Grasp is strictly better as well. You know, that one has a little bit of a downside because of the life loss, but all the same, Terror is just, it has been outclassed in recent memory, but as a common piece of point-and-click removal, does good work. Now, the last card I want to talk about today is definitely me kind of being self-indulgent, but pointing out why certain cards are templated the way they are today. a card that is included in Dominaria Remastered that is absolutely bonkers crazy that I just terrorized my playgroup with when I was younger was Faceless Butcher. Faceless Butcher is a 2/3 Nightmare Horror for 2 black. When Faceless Butcher enters the battlefield, exile another target creature. When Faceless Butcher leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to the battlefield under its owner's control. This reads like it should function similarly to Brutal Cathar, where it enters the battlefield, you remove a thing, and then they kill your thing and they get their thing back. Like that's the idea, right? It sneaks another permanent under it. However, there is a key templating difference. Faceless Butcher has 2 separate triggers. Brutal Cathar, you'll notice it says exile another target creature until Brutal Cathar leaves the battlefield. The reason that that's important is if that enter the battlefield trigger goes on the stack, Brutal Cathar is targeting something, and then Brutal Cathar gets removed. It gets bounced, it gets blinked, it gets sacrificed, whatever. The trigger doesn't resolve. The other creature never leaves the battlefield because the Cathar already left. So it negates the effect, and it just fizzles. With Faceless Butcher, however, you'll notice they are separate triggers. That space here, that period and then a space, makes a huge difference. The reason that that's significant, when Faceless Butcher enters the battlefield, this first trigger, the ETB trigger, goes on the stack. If Faceless Butcher leaves the battlefield before this resolves, then the second trigger goes on the stack before the first one. And so what ends up happening is the statements state, okay, return the creature and then exile the creature. So the return clause already triggers before the creature leaves, and then the creature leaves. So as a result, that creature can never come back because the Faceless Butcher is no longer on the field, but it's still exiled the other thing. That may seem absolutely insane and potentially game breaking, and it is. Back in the day, I used to run this with Carrion Feeder because I would play Faceless Butcher, sacrifice the Faceless Butcher for value, get a +1/+1 counter on my Carrion Feeder, and just exile my opponent's creature forever. You know, their exile removal was tough to come by back in the day, so that was a big deal. You know, got around Indestructible because Indestructible had like just been introduced when I was playing. It got around like a lot of cool interactions, didn't trigger death triggers, that kind of thing. It was really useful. Now, though, we live in a world with Ephemerate and Displacer Kitten. Faceless Butcher plus Displacer Kitten with a couple of cantrips in your hand. If you have like 6 or 7 mana lying around, throw the Faceless Butcher and then cast Opt a couple of times or a couple little one drop instants. You flicker your Faceless Butcher a couple of times, and you just stack those triggers in such a way the leave triggers resolve first, like all of them will resolve first, and then the exile, and you just exile your opponent's, like a big chunk of your opponent's board. That's a thing you will be able to do. Now, granted, in Commander, you can do it already. All these cards are available to you. But Faceless Butcher's getting a reprint. You'll be able to draft it at uncommon. So that kind of thing is at your disposal. These older cards don't often get reprints because they have weird interactions like that. But they're getting one here. And I think that's super cool. So I gotta say, like, bottom line, I'm excited for Dominaria Remastered. I think it's going to be a very fun set. I wish the name wasn't quite as confusing because, you know, we've had so many just Dominaria sets. But it is what it is. At this time, as far as I know, there is no plan to get any of these cards onto Arena. You'll notice that's what they did with Time Spiral Remastered when they put that out last year. There was no interaction with Arena whatsoever. I'll be shocked if they do anything different here. It would be neat. Like, some of these reprints would be really cool in Arena, but personally, I would rather they focus their energies on getting more Explorer anthologies out so we could be playing Pioneer. But in any event, thank you so much for checking out the video. I appreciate it very, very much. So this has been just kind of a quick look at Dominaria Remastered. I think the set's going to be fire. Definitely check it out. I know I will. And yeah, thank you for checking out the video. I'll catch you in the next one.